Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining us for the AssessPrep for Remote Assessment session in our Around the World in 24 Hours with ManagePack series. We're delighted to welcome attendees from over 50 countries here in this session from over 100 schools. I'm Lakshay, ManagePack's Regional Sales Manager, and with me, I have co-founders of AssessPrep, which is an advanced end-to-end platform for online assessments, Mr. Karan Gupta and Shikhar Sethi. Do you want to say a quick hello?
Hello, everyone. Thank you for taking out the time to join the session.
Hi, everyone.
Awesome. So we also have a special guest with us for the second part of the webinar, Ms. Sonal Chabria from Jamnabai Narsee International School in India. Hello, Sonal.
Hi, good afternoon from Mumbai.
Lovely. I'm really looking forward to our conversation. So before we get started, let me just quickly walk you through some logistics real quick. Please note that all the attendees are in listen-only mode. Any technical difficulties, if you have, please click on the hand icon and we'd be happy to assist you from there. If you have any questions and or suggestions throughout the webinar, please post these in the questions tab and we'll try and get those answered either during the webinar or we'll answer it personally in a follow-up email. If you'd like to download the slides for this session, please click on the handout section. Moving on to the agenda, Karan will be walking us through a quick introduction and demo of AssessPrep. Then I'll be speaking with Sonal with her experience on online assessments at their school, which I'm personally really excited about. And then we'll finish off with the FAQs and Q&A with all of you attendees. All right, so without any further ado, I'll pass it on to Karan to give us a quick introduction to AssessPrep and the updates.
Thank you, Lakshay. We are doing this session because of the coronavirus. It's brought life to a standstill with over 178 countries reporting school closures. And I think this has completely disrupted the education space around the world. It has been incredibly challenging for all of us during this pandemic, whether it has been managing the technology, self-learning, a new way of teaching, or making emotional connections with the students, or having to steer different capabilities among children through a screen. It has been a tough time for all the teachers and administrators. But the world has seen many inspiring stories from teachers that have decided to go above and beyond. The pandemic has been about getting creative about ways to stay connected with the students and communities. But I think on the positive side, when the crisis is over, I think we would all emerge with upgraded skills in technology. We would have learned new ways of teaching. We would have overhauled the curriculum design and maybe even developed a new virtual pedagogy. With that, I would like to go over what we are doing as AssessPrep over the past few months. We have grown a lot, over 100% growth rate. We are now working with over 150 happy schools all around the globe. We are present in over 60 countries. We have delivered over 500,000 assessments. About 100,000 resources have been created by the teachers. And because this is digital assessments, we have saved so many trees. I think that's the best part of digital assessments. And we are going very, very fast. And now I would like to go over the AssessPrep overview. AssessPrep is basically a platform which helps schools transition from pen and paper assessments to digital assessments and helps schools conduct remote assessments during school closures because of COVID-19. It has 4 components. One is creating assessments online. It can be created collaboratively with the teachers, and you can author really rich assessments using AssessPrep. You can add videos, you can add simulations, you can add images, and you can add a lot of interactive questions. And that is what makes it better than a pen and paper assessment. Then the second part of AssessPrep is delivering assessments. And you can deliver assessments using AssessPrep in a lockdown mode or in an online mode. And students can do it anytime, anywhere, using any device. Then during COVID-19, this is one of the most important features. How do you monitor students? So you can do that using the live dashboard. You can monitor them in real time, and you can see what exactly the students are doing. If they're facing any technical glitches, you can help them out. You can add time, and you can do a lot more than with this. This is something that we have launched very recently, and I would like to go over this in more detail. And then the fourth part is grading and then analytics. So you can grade on a student's answer, you can annotate, and you can obviously see very detailed analytics for each test. Okay. So this is the demo sandbox that we have, and the initial part of getting to start with AssessPrep is setting up your school. If you have ManageBack integration, we have a single sign-on with ManageBack, and we also have a sync with ManageBack. So all your classes, accounts, subjects, years get synced into from ManageBack to AssessPrep, and you do not have to maintain everything in two places. So it makes the process very, very simple. And it's a one-click setup for most schools. We are coming up with other forms of integration with ManageBack, like task and gradebook integration as well. Once your school is set up on AssessPrep, then the first part would be creating a test on AssessPrep. So you can as I had mentioned before, you can create a new test by clicking on the new test button, and then you can deliver this test in the offline mode or the online mode. So the offline mode means that if you want to do high stakes assessments, you can do it using the offline mode. Here, the AssessPrep offline app would lock down everything on the computer. The students would not be able to access anything else on their machines, and it would be something that you would do if you are doing a high stakes exam where you do not want the students to refer to anything else while they're giving the exam. The other one is the online mode. This the students can do via any browser. It needs internet access during the exam, and this is very, very useful if you want to do formatives, because this would not lock down everything, but then the students would be able to refer something. So if you're doing quick quizzes, homeworks, you would typically create an exam using the online mode. You would give a test title to your test, then an access code. An access code is something that the students need to be able to access the test. You can do a timed assessment or an untimed assessment. You can choose the test duration. You can choose the test scheduled at date and time. This is the date and time that the students would not be able to start the test before this date and time, I would say. So let's say, then you would see all the years that you're taking. You can choose the years, you can choose the subjects. Let's say I'm creating a physics test. You can choose your classrooms, and then you can also choose to collaborate with other teachers. So the teachers you're collaborating with, you can collaboratively create this test and administer this test to the students. So let's say I'm teaching a few sections and the other teacher is teaching the other few sections, and we can collaboratively create this test and then administer it to the students. You can have a marks or points based assessment, or if you are an MYP school, you can also have an achievement level based assessment. And we are also offering an on-screen calculator. We have the TI-30XS for the MYP and TI-84 for DP. We also have the Desmos online calculator now available. For language subjects, we have the spell check feature. You can choose to add some extra instructions if you want. And you can also use this Allow Browsers tab. So this would help you to monitor students while they are giving the assessments. So this would allow you to launch Zoom, Meet, or Teams, and then the students would be able to come on a call, and they can switch on their webcams, and you can monitor them, and then they would launch their AssessPrep apps, and then they would be giving the exam. So this is very, very important. This is something that we launched very, very recently. Once you've done that, you would just simply click on the Save tab, and then you can start adding content to your test. So the first thing that you would be doing when you are opening any test on AssessPrep would be adding tasks. Tasks are basically question groups, and these are a group of related questions. Let's say you have a reading comprehension and you want to ask questions based on that. So this would be considered as a task. And then, as I had mentioned, that AssessPrep allows you to author really, really rich assessments. So let's say if you're a language teacher in a pen and paper test, you cannot have a speaking or a listening based test. But using AssessPrep, you can add audio files, you can add podcasts, you can record your own voice, or you can select a file from your computer, and you can add that. In a pen and paper test, you cannot ask students to see a video and answer questions. But using digital assessments, you can add videos to your test. You can choose to add a video from your computer, or you can just simply paste a YouTube URL and then give a caption to your video and add that. You can add images to your test, you can add text segments to your test, and then we have a variety of questions that you can add to your test. So you obviously have the long answer type question, but you can also add multiple choice questions, table chart based questions, GeoGebra, fill in the blanks, label, sorting, matching, and all of these questions. The good part about this is most of these questions are auto correctable, so it saves a lot of time for the teachers while they're grading the test. And You do not have, you just given the correct answer, the predefined answers, and AssessPrep would do all the correction for you. So it saves a lot of time during the grading and feedback process. I would just like to show you some of the question types in more detail before we move ahead. So let's say you want to create a test where you want the students to be able to mark things on a screen. They want to make flowcharts. They want to create some diagrams. So you can use this canvas that we have. This is like Microsoft Paint, and they can create a benzene ring. They can create flowcharts. They have all these tools where they can draw arrows and stuff. So this is a interactive question that we have. Then we have the label drag and drop based question. We have a hotspot based question. This is typically very useful for visual questions where, let's say you have a diagram of the solar system and you want them to choose which of these planets is Mars. So visually they should know, and you can create hotspot based questions for any subject. Then we have match the following, just matching with the column on the left. You've just put in the questions with predefined answers, and AssessPrep is doing everything else where we are randomizing the options. And then this is classify, where you're classifying things into different categories. We have GeoGebra. So GeoGebra is a very advanced graphing tool which is being used in thousands of schools and universities, and we have integrated that with AssessPrep. This allows you to create circles, ellipses, polygons, all of that, so you can create all those physics and maths questions using this. Once you've done that, then you would typically publish your test for your students. You can preview the test and you can see how that looks like for a student, and then you can publish it if you are happy with the contents of your test. Once that has been done, then during remote assessments, because this session is primarily dealing with that, you would typically go onto the live invigilation dashboard, and you would be able to observe the students who are online at that moment, and you would be able to talk to them. You would be able to I'll just go into it in a little more detail. So you can choose the test schedule, that date and time. And you can choose to publish the test for one student or multiple students. Let's say you want to do the test for just 2 students, you can choose to do that. And once the test has been published, you will see your published test, you will see the live invigilation dashboard, you would see the submissions tab, and then the analytics. So once you go onto the live invigilation dashboard, you would be able to see the test progress, you would be able to see time remaining, you would be able to add time for the students, you would be able to enable, disable the calculator, you would be able to report if there are any issues that the student is facing, and you would be able to also chat with the student. Also, we have very recently launched the live responses dashboard. This allows you to monitor students while they're answering questions. You would be able to see exactly what they're writing in real time. This is also very useful while you are conducting online classes. So you can ask them to answer questions on AssessPrep, let's say an MCQ, and you would be able to click on each student's name, and you would be able to see what they're answering in real time. You can see what the class is answering. If there's an MCQ, let's say 50% of the class has answered it incorrectly, you can clear that misconception there and then. So this gives you real-time feedback on what the students are doing while they are attempting the test. Once this has been done, then you would have all the submissions coming back, and you can monitor whoever has submitted the test, and then you can start grading the test. So the best part about grading in AssessPrep is that you cannot make mistakes, common marking mistakes. It saves a lot of time. It's much easier than a pen and paper assessment. So you can annotate on a student's answers. You can give them detailed feedback on each answer. You can give them marks. So let's say I want to say there's a spelling error in this question. I can do that. And so the best part is that AssessPrep is doing all the totaling for you. So you cannot leave a question, you cannot do a totaling mistake. You cannot give more than the maximum number of marks. And you can also not leave a question unmarked. So let's say if I want to say I've marked this test and I want to show the marks to the students, it would give me an error. So I'm showing me the marking progress. So I need to mark all the rest of the 34 questions. So you do not have to worry about making these common marking mistakes that we make during the pen and paper test. Also, we have this feature where you can do question-wise grading. So in a typical pen and paper test, what we do is we grade the entire test for one student, and then we move on to the next student. But I think the much faster and efficient way of grading would be if you're checking a question for all the students. So you are using the question-wise checking option, and then you can toggle between students to grade this one question for all the students at one go. You can filter using the unmarked and the unattempted option, and you can also divide the work between teachers. So if let's say I want to check the first 10 questions and the other teacher wants to check the next 10 questions, you can do that as well. And once you've graded, then you would typically go into mark all as checked, and then the students, the teachers would be able, the students would be able to see the feedback, the parents would be able to see the feedback that you've given by logging into their AssessPrep accounts online. And once that has been done, then you can come onto the analytics tab and see very detailed analytics for each test. You can see the average grades, you can see the minimum, you can see the maximum, you can see the low performers, high performers, the performance-wise distribution, the criteria-wise performance, and the most common misconceptions or the difficult questions. One of the best things about AssessPrep is that all the questions that you are adding onto AssessPrep is all going into a central content repository of sorts, and you can reuse all these questions at any given point of time. You can choose to duplicate a test. If you've created a test in the previous term, you can just simply duplicate it. So if you have all your tests created once, then it's much easier to use AssessPrep in the following year, because you can just simply duplicate the test, or you can choose from the library, your internal content repository that you have on AssessPrep. So this is the live invigilation dashboard that I was talking about. And this is the live responses. So you're doing a test online and you can see, okay, these 4 students have answered this incorrectly, and I can just give them feedback in real time. So very, very useful even when you're doing live classes using Zoom during remote assessments. Also, we have introduced a new feature on AssessPrep, which is uploading extra documents. So let's say you want the student to make the diagram of the digestive system, and the student is not very, very comfortable doing that on AssessPrep digitally. So the student can now upload additional documents onto AssessPrep, and it would show as attachments, and then you can grade it. So you can now conduct hybrid assessments as well using AssessPrep, where it can be a combination of a pen and paper test and a digital assessment. So some of the biggest issues that the schools have been facing during remote assessments have been how do I ensure test integrity, that the students are not cheating during an exam. So using the AssessPrep lockdown app, they would not be able to access anything else on their machines. Secondly, the biggest problem is that I have very limited question types. So we are offering 13 question types, and you can author very rich assessments using AssessPrep. Thirdly, the online invigilation and monitoring. So the live dashboard allows you to communicate with the students, see if they're facing any issues, see if their battery is low. You can monitor them and you can see their progress, and you can help them out, because this is a big transition for a lot of schools, and just this disruption, we need to make the lives of the students and teachers easier while they are giving the assessments. Also, I just wanted to mention one thing about language exams, that you can conduct exams for all languages or using AssessPrep. So you can do language acquisition exams. They can type in French, they can type in Arabic, Sanskrit, Chinese, any language. And also the audio, the speaking and the listening feature also helps you for the language exams as well. Once the students have given the exams, because they're doing it remotely, you can just close submissions so that the students have to submit the exams by a certain time. And then after you've closed the submissions, you would not be able to see any more tests coming in from the students. I think that's it. We have a poll. I would be launching a poll, and you would be seeing a question on your screen. And I would just. So are you currently an AssessPrep customer? Please select one of the following. I think I would just close the poll now. I think, okay. There's another question that we have. What is the biggest challenge that you're facing while transitioning from a pen and paper to a digital assessment? Because a lot of schools right now are thinking of doing e-assessments, but there are certain challenges because it's a big transition. So what are the major challenges that the schools are facing while they're transitioning? I think let's close the poll now. Okay, Lakshay, over to you.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much, Karan, for giving us the updates. And we've also received some interesting responses to the poll so far. So we can talk about that towards the end. We have a few other questions as well. But before we do that, I'd like to move to the next segment where we have Ms. Sonal with us. So just to quickly introduce you all to Ms. Sonal Chabria, if you could move to the next slide, Karan. Lovely. So we have with us Sonal Chabria, who's the MYP coordinator of Jamnabai Narsee International School, which is one of the prestigious schools in India. She is an IB examiner for individual and societies. She's also a personal project coordinator and service coordinator as well. And she was a former zonal head for CMCA, and she currently also is a co-founder for Mumbai Cyclist Enthusiasts. You wear a lot of hats, don't you, Sonal?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much for taking our time. And we've got some questions for you, and I'm sure the answers and the responses that you would give us would benefit the attendees in today's session, but because clearly your school is managing the remote learning and assessments pretty effectively. So thank you again. Let me just quickly move to the questions. The first and I think the most important elephant in the room, I should say, is how did your team react when your school was closed due to coronavirus? What happened? Just walk us through that, what steps your schools took to overcome the situation.
So the first thing that happened was when this virus struck, we knew it was going to invade our lives, but there was no way we would believe that aircraft would stop in the sky, right? So we were just going into the spring break. So we just assumed we are going to come back from the spring break, which clearly hasn't happened till now. We've got a really long spring break. But our team was extremely open-minded, and not only was our management kind enough to give us whatever resources we required, but all of us in the core team were experimenting with what was out there. So whether it was Google Teams, whether it was Zoom that had just suddenly sprouted and everyone was zooming around, we actually went into this and researched a lot, and we liked the whole platform, and we trained our teachers. We figured out how the students could give our passcodes to other people who could enter classrooms. So there was a lot of baggage that comes with trying new technology.
Absolutely.
And surely we just managed it, taking small steps at a time. But the minute spring break was over, we came back with a boom. We reduced screen time by 10 minutes per lecture, and we are having a full-fledged classroom where sorry, I'm just going on rambling, but
no, absolutely, go ahead.
So what has happened is this is going to be the worst year in terms of education all over the world. I mean, we are actually going to lose out a lot, but at JNIS, we have made it our mission that, whether it comes to assessments or learning, our school has not paused, and we are continuing with the same steam, and the children are enthralled, and we are going on and proceeding as normal.
Lovely. Well, interesting things when you mentioned taking baby steps and making sure the school is researching. Those are really valuable points that you mentioned. The other question that I had was, knowing that your school has been doing online assessments for a while now, why should other schools do online assessments in the first place? Like, what are some of the advantages of digital assessments over traditional pen and paper assessments?
Correct. So now the first and foremost thing is your children are not coming to school anymore, right? So if you are digitally teaching the children, you have to take a digital assessment. Now, this I understand happens only for the rich schools, the rich children, children in MYP who are used to using a computer and giving e-assessments. I get all of that, right? So for them, it's a natural progression. For anyone else, if you ask me, I mean, if you're asking me that, okay, my school is absolutely fine, we're not doing e-assessments, we're not in the MYP, what would fascinate us about e-assessments? So e-assessments, you can look at it from 3 points of view, right? The first point of view is from the teacher's point of view. You can collaborate over a paper. You don't have to constantly, keep sending emails. 2 or 3 of us can work at the same time while creating a paper. Number 2, I mean, of course, he's run you through AssessPrep, so all of us know it, that the ease of correction, spelling mistakes, handwriting while you're correcting, I mean, you can just skip over all of that. Those are baby things. You can do it at any time, anywhere. There are no digital barriers, and I just think that there's also a certain amount of increased security. So whether you're storing your papers, whether you are, keeping your papers, reporting becomes easier. The assessments are much richer. I can actually show the children a video. So the way they analyze things or the way they understand things, it becomes a much richer and fuller platform. So it has all the pluses compared to a pen and paper traditional assessment. And I don't think tomorrow, I want to know how much are you writing with a pen and paper today? I'm truly not. So, so it's a plus, plus, plus when it comes to digital assessment.
Absolutely. Well, it's interesting because the way you explain it, it sounds easy because you're using the system effectively. And that brings me to the next question is, what should be the focus area for schools while they're creating online assessments?
So the focus area is you get very carried away. I mean, we've been using AssessPrep now for 3 years very effectively. So we get very carried away while creating a paper. And what happens is, as a teacher, you tend to get lazy and not solve the paper yourself. So you would tend to overexceed the time, number one. So you should be very careful when you're creating an online test. Number two, you should try, because it's an online test, you can use a lot of graphics, you can use a lot of simulations, which will help the child think analytically. So it doesn't have to be a basic question. It can be a lot of conceptual based questions, which could really help the children. And I think that's what you should focus on when you're creating an online test.
Well, from the responses to the previous question, there are a lot of schools that are on trials and are using the system, but I'm guessing you're using it a bit more effectively. So on a granular level, are there some of the tips that you would want to share with the teachers in the audience, how to better use AssessPrep?
Yes, for sure. You must remember one thing. I understand that most of the teachers could be technologically challenged. It's nothing to fear. It's a process that you will do as a team. So when you're doing something as a team, you progress slowly. And it's all trial and error. And it's really, really simple. When you come down to it, it's really, really simple. You can actually create your test in a Word document and copy paste it. I mean, there are a lot of times when you find superb questions and you say, oh my God, now I have to sit and, type those questions down. You can take screenshots and put them in AssessPrep. So it's pretty easy. You just have to jump and you will swim.
This would be mostly for schools which are almost there in the journey of using online assessments. They're doing it in some capacity, some way, shape, or form. But for a school which is new and they're just kickstarting their journey towards online assessments, what should be some of the steps that they should take? Because you were there at that spot one time.
So don't take your summatives or your final exams on AssessPrep. You experiment with it. Take a small formative. Take a couple of formatives. Let your teachers experience the correction of a thing, writing a report. So, when you start with smaller things, then you can eventually go on to taking your final exams on online.
And on a technical standpoint, for a school teacher community, what would be the things that they should be keeping in mind before doing these online assessments?
First and foremost, your IT team should be, and your broadband should be strong. Okay, it is important in case you're doing an online assessment in school. Number two, it's a great idea to train the parents so that the parents know how to access the papers of the students, because see, these papers they can never be lost. They are right there. So many a times the children come home and say that, oh, I've lost my paper. Oh, it's lying with Miss. Here, it is right there in front of the parents. Sorry, I think I lost track of your question. Your question
I was just asking on a technical standpoint. So you mentioned that the parents community should be educated, but then in terms of laptops or being charged, those kind of things, like any technical stuff.
Yes. So of course, I mean, if you have computers in school and you're using it in school, your computers have to be charged. Electricity has to be there. Your extra chargers have to be there in the room. So instead of having extra pens, papers, calculators, you just have to make sure that your technical team is strong and you have adequate support. If the students are doing it at home, you have to be very careful when it comes to academic honesty. We can speak about that later.
Yeah. So. Well, I think one thing you mentioned here was the parent community that you communicate with and you make them aware of all the changes that are happening and involve them in the whole conversation. what were some of the things that your school has done so far in making parent community a part of the conversation?
So our school is very, very good when it comes to an open door policy, and we have a great open door policy. We have a lot of webinars right now, webinars with parents, but otherwise we call parents of each grade. We show them what our assessments look like. We show them how they can access ManageBack, how they can access the students' attendance, how they can access where the children where the papers are stored and how they can see the teacher's feedback. So we take sessions with the parents on a regular, ongoing basis.
Well, although we talked about AssessPrep's lockdown mode where it's like cheating is next to impossible, but then if the students are,
You'll be
in terms of
surprised.
academic, yeah, that's also my question. Like in terms of academic honesty, you brushed on that in the previous answer.
Yes.
How are you dealing with that problem?
Yeah. So let me explain to you how great our students are and how great the future generation is, because we have a knack for beating the system.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, it's we have to beat the system. If we have to survive, we are beating the system. And as educators, it is our policy to teach them that honesty is the best policy. So what we have noticed is that even though we have a Zoom on and we are watching the children and the computer screen is locked, our children, especially in the NYP, come from very affluent families where they have 2 or 3 gadgets. So they have an iPad, they have a phone, they are Googling answers, they are sending their question papers to their tuition teachers or their coaches or whoever else they need to, friends, and they're getting these answers back. And suddenly when you're on the, when you're actually invigilating these students, you are actually saying that, okay, for the first 10 minutes, Mr. X has not done anything. And in the last 10 minutes, the maths paper is solved impeccably. And you're just hoping that you were that genius, but no, Mr. X is that genius. So what we did is we've created a very, very strict distance learning policy in which we have said that there is zero tolerance for cheating. And we made examples of students by, giving them a straight off 0. Number 2, when we were doing, our e-portfolios, especially the language e-portfolios, it was very difficult because our school had not done it before the spring break. So we had involved the parent community where they had signed a letter saying that they are invigilating their children. They were at the back of the room. Students were using 2 devices. One device, they were using exam.net where they were typing all the answers. The other device was kept in a way that the teacher could observe through Zoom that the students were actually answering the questions. Now, suppose there's a technical glitch, which there is on and off. We had requested the parents to start recording from that minute onwards and send the respective teacher the recording. So that was a system that we created. It's a tough system. You cannot possibly expect the parent community to be supervising the children because the children are ours to look after during school time. So yes, those are glitches. You just make your questions more conceptual. So if a child is answering it, your concept and my concept could be treading on the same line, but you and I cannot possibly give the same answer.
Right. A couple of follow-up questions on that. So now, when it comes to involving the parent community, you mentioned you have a circular in place, and I think that's a great initiative that definitely other schools can follow as well. With the new feature on AssessPrep, being able to track the progress of students in a live manner, you would be able to see whether that Mr. X has covered in the first 5 minutes and suddenly answers. So I think those are definitely things that Karan and Shikhar are keeping in mind while making all the updates. So that's great to hear. One final question I have for you. I wish I could ask more, but we have limited time. According to you, what would be the future of assessments and how would it look like 2 years, 5 years down the line?
So, the world is moving at a very rapid pace, and we know it. I mean, we are surviving the pandemic. We are surviving, because of globalization, we still have trade and we still have Heinz ketchup on our tables, right? So I have nothing against rote. I love rote. I know 7/4s are whatever it is because of rote. It's not that I've analyzed what it is. But tomorrow's world is a digital world. It's how fast you can actually fish out information more than how fast you can remember information, right? Because basic information is just known. So the future of assessments have to be following that line, and they have to be following a digital line. They have to be following, uh, you know, a line in which you're actually making the students analyze, you're making the students critically think, and you're making them answer, or you are giving them data and asking them to fish out the correct information the fastest. So of course you need all your criterions of knowledge and being able to communicate and all of that, but it is fastest finger first. The only thing I feel that would be a challenge over here is the human touch and empathy. You see, I'm now talking about if we are digitally doing everything and we are far away and we are saying, okay, right now I want to take a class at Harvard and I'm sitting in Mumbai and I'm going to be taking a class of so-and-so professor. Super, brilliant. But being in that classroom with the teacher, either the pat on the head or the smile at you for something that you've said or the way you've reacted is what makes us human, right? So I think online teaching more than assessment, it lacks a little bit of that human touch and empathy.
So I think in the near future, whenever, and we hope soon, whenever the schools open, the focus should be on that personal touch and focusing on the behavior side of things rather than the content itself.
Correct. Yeah. And I just a suggestion for me to any of the educators sitting out there, that even if you have this phase-wise opening of your schools, I very personally believe that there is no need to call in your children to school for a teaching. If you have the ability to have online teaching, right? You need to call them to school for competitions. You need to call them for school for collaboration, for lab work, for being in the library, more than for assessments or more than for online learning. So that's, I mean, if I had to open up our school and the decision was all mine, it would be more for sports and the feeling of being with each other more than assessments.
That's a very interesting thought. Well, on that note, thank you so very much for joining us. Yeah, I'm sure the attendees have benefited from your experience and thoughts, especially the one that talks about behavior and not focusing on the content. Well, thanks again. I literally can't thank you enough for the session.
Thank you.
All right. So, all right. So, Karan, do you have any other polls before we jump to the Q&A and audience interaction?
Yes, yes, I'm launching a poll right now. I'm assuming that the participants who've joined are interested in doing digital assessments, and what would be the major reasons why would you want to start using digital assessments for your schools? I think, Lakshya, in the meanwhile, we can go over the question and answers in the FAQs.
Okay, lovely. So a few questions that have come in. I didn't have the chance to have a look at all of them, but one that I noticed was there was a school that is using Google Forms. Why should they consider using AssessPrep for conducting digital assessments? How is it better?
Yeah, I think that's a very common question that a lot of schools ask. And Google Forms is free to use, and a lot of schools are using Google Forms, but I would say Google Forms is 20% of what you can do with AssessPrep. Firstly, you cannot do high stakes assessments. There is no security. There is no lockdown app that Google Forms has. Secondly, with Google Forms, you do not have the amazing MBA integration. So you would have to do all the work twice. You would have to maintain all the accounts in two places. Thirdly, I would say the live invigilation dashboard, where you cannot monitor students as effectively as you can on AssessPrep. There are very limited questions. So every part of AssessPrep, whether it's creating an assessment, whether it's delivering it, whether it's the invigilation, or even the grading and analytics, Google Forms is just a very small subset of what AssessPrep can do in its capability.
All right. The other question that we have from Roxanne Diane, apologies if I'm not pronouncing it right. Can AssessPrep prevent opening of tabs while taking the exam?
Okay, so right now, through the offline, the lockdown app, you cannot open. You can do it using the online formatives. But I just wanted to also announce to the audience that we are very recently, we are launching the AssessPrep version 2. It's coming out in September. And then in the lockdown app, you could allow students to open some tabs within the lockdown app as well. So even in the high stakes modes, if you want them to refer to a particular website, they would only be able to open that website using our lockdown app as well. Right now, it's not possible through the lockdown app. You cannot include a web link there. They would not be able to access
great.
it.
Okay, great. Well, interesting. You talked about the AssessPrep version 2. So I think a question for both of you, Karan and Shikhar. If any one of you wants to give us some quick, update on what's happening there, what are some of the new features coming in? Anything?
Hi guys, hi everyone. So I'll just jump in there for that question. We're happy to announce that AssessPrep is going through a major revamp in terms of the underlying architecture, as well as the user-facing features that are going to be coming up. And we're looking at a September 1 launch date, and hopefully by sometime in the next 2 weeks, we'll start showing it to the existing users of what it's going to look like. And we're very excited with this new update. Of course, there are a lot of UI improvements based on a lot of feedback from all the schools that we work with, and also a lot of the feature requests that have been coming in pertaining to conducting remote assessments and whether it's monitoring or grading or test creation. We've tried to make everything a little bit easier and cater to all those feature requests in this. So yeah, I think in another week or two we'll start showing it to existing customers, and September 1 is the target date that we look to launch for everybody.
Awesome, lovely. Thanks for giving that update, Shikhar. There's one question from a school that is interested in starting a trial. They're asking, we want to get started with the trial. How much time would it take to set up the onboard process, and also including teacher training?
Okay, that's a question that comes up a lot. And for the schools who are kickstarting with the process of transitioning to digital assessments, or just doing both digital and pen and paper assessments, is how long would it take us to start this process? Firstly, if you are using ManageBack, then it's a one-click setup, and we can set your school up in hours. Even if you're not, it would take less than 24 hours to set up your school on AssessPrep. Secondly, I would the training of the teachers, I think it's very intuitive, the AssessPrep platform. And once we do the initial training with the teachers, they would be able to start using AssessPrep and create all the question types and use it effectively within 7 to 10 days of them attending the training session with us. So I think it takes about 7 to 10 days with the teachers getting trained and being able to use AssessPrep more effectively. So yeah.
All right. Another question here we have is, I think, looking at the language exams side. So they're asking, how can we use AssessPrep more effectively for conducting language exams?
Yeah. So one thing that I'd already mentioned while I was giving the demo was that as compared to pen and paper tests, you can do speaking, you can do listening based tests. So I think that is a big advantage over a traditional exam, because when you're doing traditional exams, you're basically testing kids on their ability to write and read. But now using AssessPrep, you can also test them on their ability to listen and interpret, and also their ability to speak. Secondly, I would say that students can give exams in any of the languages that they have installed on their machines. So you can give exams using any language, in any language. I think that's That's how you can use AssessPrep effectively for language exams.
All right. There are a lot of questions coming in. Sorry if we are not able to get to yours. Another question here is about PDF format. How do I quickly make the test with AssessPrep with a PDF file if I have the questions in PDF?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So one of the things that a lot of schools or teachers struggle with is that I have to now create the entire assessment on AssessPrep, and this would be a pretty cumbersome process. So we have introduced a new feature on AssessPrep where you can just upload any PDF. Let's say you have past year test exams that you want to add to AssessPrep. You can just click on the Add PDF button and then select a file from your computer, and if you have any PDF on your machine. And once you've done that, you can just give them the students the space to answer questions. So you do not have to copy paste each and every question from a Word doc or a PDF. You can just simply include the Word doc or the PDF onto AssessPrep, and then just simply give them space to answer a question. So let's say there are 10 questions in the PDF. I would go onto the Add Questions fields, and I would just say answer question 1.1. That's it. And that's it. That's what I need to do. So it's much faster way of creating an assessment if you do not want to copy paste each and every question onto AssessPrep.
All right, thanks, Karan. A quick question from Frank Spencer. He's asking, how can we train students to use AssessPrep?
I think the student interface is pretty straightforward. We have very detailed guides which are available on help.managepacks.com. And the only thing that they need to know about is the offline app and installing it on their machines. And then they just need to, just once they open the interface, it's pretty straightforward for a student. So once they open the interface, I can just show you what a student interface would look like. And there is not much training that's required. There's a timer, there's a bookmarking option, there is an on-screen calculator, there is a font, choosing a font option. They can pin something while they're giving the exam. They can type maths. I think this is something they would have to get used to a bit. They can choose the language of the exam, they can bookmark. So it has features that a lot of students are already used to, and they would not require much training. And it's pretty intuitive, but there is a very detailed help guide that we have, and you can share that with the students if need arises.
Okay, sounds good. Another question was on a school that is interested, I think, continuing with your mathematics equation point. If a school wants to run a hybrid test and we want to do both pen and paper as well as online assessments, how can we manage that on AssessPrep?
Okay, as I'd mentioned in the demo as well, that now there are many situations where you want students to be able to upload certain documents. So they need to just give the exam on AssessPrep and then just log in onto AssessPrep, and just using their mobile phones, just click pictures or scan certain whatever documents, and just click on the upload button and upload all these files. So it would be a combination of they're giving some exam, answering some questions on computer, but also writing some drawing some diagrams or writing some questions on a piece of paper. And once they upload all these attachments onto AssessPrep, you would be, as teachers, be able to see it, and they would be able to grade them with the test. So this helps in conducting hybrid assessments. I think that's what is needed. We can't completely transition from pen and paper to completely digital, but I think there needs to be a gradual process of doing that, and AssessPrep is helping you do that exactly.
Absolutely. So we've got 6 more minutes. I'll take a couple of more questions. So a question from Nicholas Folio is, what if a student is facing difficulties or has a question during the online assessments?
Yes. So let's say a student is giving the exam and they are facing some issues. They think one of the questions that they've answered is not correct, or there's any confusion and they want to talk to their teachers or administrators. We have this live chat option within AssessPrep. They can just click on the live chat and they can talk to the invigilators. As invigilators during remote assessments, I can broadcast. So I can select all the students and I can say, that, okay, question 1.1 is incorrect and this is the correction. So this is the live chat option. Here the teachers can chat. They can say that task 4 is wrong, please ignore. Or I can say I am facing some issues with my assessment, and the admins or the teachers would be able to respond to that. So that it's a real-time communication that's happening.
Okay, lovely. That's more for the conceptual questions. A part of his question was also for internet connection. How is the AssessPrep platform managing any internet difficulties if they arise?
Yeah, so firstly, as compared to all the other assessment platforms out there, AssessPrep is not dependent on the internet while the students are giving the assessment. So we download the entire test file as an encrypted file, and the students would be able to refer to all the questions, see all the videos, audios, everything without the internet. So there is no dependence on the internet. But also we are, if internet is available, then you would be able to see the student online and monitor them. Even if it's not available, it would not stop the process. So you can still do the assessment without internet. If there are any power cuts or something like that that's happened, the student can still continue with the assessment. We are backing up their data locally on the machine, and if internet is available, then also on the cloud. So if the student machine crashes, he can just simply switch and start the test using his mobile phone or another device, and there would be no loss of data. So it would be just resuming the test. You don't have to give the test again.
All right, sounds good. Yeah, one quick question before we move to the final comments. So this is from Ufuk Yakti. Again, sorry if I'm pronouncing it wrong. How do you handle or support academic honesty using the platform?
Okay, there are 3 parts to it. One is the lockdown app itself, which closes everything in the background, and it does not let you access on the machine, but that is limited to the machine that they're giving. Then the second part of it is, let's get the students on webcam and let's observe the students in real time while they're giving the exam. So you would be getting the students on a Meet call or a Zoom call or a Teams call, and then they would be starting the assessment. So you would be able to observe them, and if they are looking here and there, or if there are somebody is prompting them, so that would ensure a bit of the academic honesty. Third would be like observing students using the live responses dashboard, where you can see exactly what they're writing, and if they're you can figure out if they're referring to something else. The fourth thing that we are introducing in AssessPrep version 2 is a plagiarism checker. So if there is something that they have plagiarized from anywhere on the web or any place else, that would show up on AssessPrep as something that's been plagiarized or has been taken, and you would get to know if the student is cheating. So I think we are trying to do our best to ensure that even in a loosely supervised test, you would be able to ensure academic honesty.
Great. Well, thanks for that. We're getting a lot of questions and queries on getting started with the trial. They're interested in pricing. So we'll definitely get to those questions after today's session. Apologies, we were not able to answer some of the questions now also. So those questions will be answered after this session. Now, Karan, we are also running a quick poll right now, just in case if you didn't see that. Would you like to get started with a free trial? Yes, no, or if you're already on a trial or you're a customer. So please enter those responses to that question, and then we can quickly move to the final remarks. All right, so Karan, we can close the poll and move to the last slides, please.
Yes.
Thank you. All right, so as you also saw from the questions, AssessPrep is offering a 30-day free trial. And if you're interested in getting started, please send us an email at sales@managedback.com or sales@assessprep.com, and we'll get back to you. Again, some of the questions which we were not able to answer, we will be getting back to you on that. And just from my side, as a company and also with our partners AssessPrep, we do not like to nickel and dime. So even when you're getting started, if you want a training session or if you have any questions, we provide 24-hour support. So feel free to reach out to us, and we are happy to help you with all the other partner schools that we're working with. Once again, thank you all for joining us, including Karan, Shikhar, and Sonal, for being our panelists for this session. And do join us for the other sessions in the Managed Back around the world in 24 hours with Managed Back. Once again, thank you all.
Thank you, Lakshay. Thank you everyone for joining us for this session.
All right. Bye.